Hello and welcome to the Super Nicktendo Unscripted podcast. This is episode 16. I know that it's been a couple of weeks since I last filmed, but I'll go over that in a bit. Before we get started, if you are new to this particular podcast or wherever you find it, make sure that you hit the like button, rate it, comment on the video, and subscribe if you're new. If you like these types of podcasts, basically this podcast is just me and I'm talking about any type of subject that I find interesting. And it is one of those things where nothing's too off limits here. I mostly talk about video game stuff and what's going on behind the scenes on my main channel, which is Super Nicktendo. So if that's something that you're interested in, just stick around. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, this podcast is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you are just an audio listener, you can go ahead and do that. The podcast launches on the same day as the video one. So whichever you guys prefer. It looks like on Spotify that it is growing up. That's pretty fun and exciting. Speaking of growing, the YouTube channel reached 100 subscribers, which is... It took a while, but hey, it's better late than never. I'm actually excited about it because the channel is just for me to flex my creative muscle and put topics on this channel that I don't really want to script out. So that's been the whole main goal. I'm planning on adding more other content other than the podcast. So if you are someone who just doesn't want to hear me drone on for 45 minutes or an hour or so, you guys can watch other content on the channel as that comes out. I recently released the Atari 2600 replacement board little review. It's only 3.5 minutes. It's very short. That's as long as it needed to be. And that's also like the motivation of the channel too, is that I'm not particularly interested in maximizing the algorithm, so to speak, and maybe I'll talk about that in a later time, but basically just ideas that I've had rattling around recently that I just want to just get out there and jettison into the world, and making it unscripted and doing a different style of editing helps me be a better creator in the first place. More smaller videos like the Atari 2600 thing, not as small as the board review, but still just like casual, nothing really too fancy. The next video that I'm working on is my thoughts on the Video Game History Foundation subscription that I have. So I'll go over some magazines that I've gotten in the mail, and then just highlighting other different parts of my collection. Like I mentioned a while back about my Laserdisc collection and my camera collection, which is back here and stuff. I want to do a video on that, and just like maybe an unboxing or two, or just like random thoughts. I haven't really decided too much about what exactly I want to do on this. Maybe like I'll make random posts about things that I see on Twitter or something like that if I want to chime in, because that's what I'm going to do in this podcast. It's just a little bit longer, so maybe like down the line I'll do that, but other stuff are coming here. So I got pretty good podcast for you. I have a couple of topics that I want to talk about here. It's basically going over like a little bit behind the scenes of what's happening on the main channel, and then I have a handful of topics that I want to talk about, like specifically what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks since I've taken the time off. And then I got my PVM restored, so I'll talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about this Starfield Discourse about the main screen, and whether or not it's going to suck because the screen is minimalized. And then just Starfield in general. But yeah, just stick around and we'll get started. Alright, so first topic here. Basically, I am going to be rebooting Retronomics, which is on my main channel here. And for those of you who have found the channel because of the main channel, and those of you who have not, basically I run a series called Retronomics, which focuses on price trends in video games. And it's been a lot of fun to just see the series evolve and have it grow into something that a lot of people actually enjoy. I think that's one of the main motivators for even making the content, is that a ton of people, they find the content and it's like one of those things that they didn't know that they wanted to watch, which is exciting. However, the Retronomics series hasn't been doing hot for the past couple of videos, and typically I'm a person who goes, hey, I don't care about the views and everything like that, but for a while I've been less and less interested in making Retronomics content, and the fact of the matter is that it's becoming more and more apparent that a lot of people aren't necessarily interested in watching them. Like, these videos, they do decently performance, but basically the past 3 or 4 Retronomics videos that I've done have performed poorly in the way where it just makes me think that it's time to reboot the series. It's not necessarily that I'm going to drop it and stop talking about retro video games prices and all in general, but one thing that I have noticed over time is that when you're doing a Retronomics episode, the opinion on whether or not you should buy a game or wait is pretty much the same across every game. Game prices have more or less settled down to the point where they are more and more predictable, like they were in 2019. Back in 2019, I had somebody actually like comment on a Nintendo 64 video that I did in March or something like that of 2015 or 2019, where I said Conker's Bad Fur Day is going to stay like a $35 game forever, and of course that like aged like milk. And I think Conker's Bad Fur Day, even loose, is like over $100 right now, which, like, that's the nature of 2020, is because back in 2019 it was like $60 or $70. It's one of those things where now it's the prices have been more or less predictable, where it gets boring for me to make and I'm just going through the motions, and I think a lot of people recognize that as well, especially when with viewer trends and everything. It's not necessarily that people are looking for a price trend video like they are with the Nintendo 3DS and the Wii U and the GameCube. Those are like still my biggest ones, but like Sony PlayStation prices got 2,500 views in the lifetime since December of 2022. Like, the GameCube prices are cooling off as well. Like, that one got about 5,000 views back in October. The Nintendo 64 one, 3,500 views back in August of last year. So actually, like, this time last year, it took a whole year for the Nintendo 64 things to cool down. Same thing with the Nintendo Switch. But what I'm getting at is that, like, this format is becoming very predictable. And unfortunately, when you have like predictable content like that, one, it gets boring to make, and two, viewers, it gets boring to watch. So I'm going to reboot it. Basically, I'm going to retool it to be a wider appeal and slightly more evergreen. So I'm hoping to, I brainstormed it on Saturday. I'll talk about a little bit of what I'm doing over the summer too, but basically I have a rough idea of like how I want to change it a little bit, and I don't really want to put it all out there, but basically it's going to be more of a overview of the prices as a whole rather than a specific system at any given time, because one of the biggest issues and trouble of creating these Retronomics episodes is like predicting like what people are actually searching for, and when you are essentially trying to appease the audience, they might be interested in a topic that's not necessarily a wider range. And so that's why you get an NES pricing video with only 700 views in less than a week. I think my NES price trends video, it's been almost a week and it's got 751 views. It's one of my worst performing videos in a very long time. It says it's 8 out of 10 now, but still, it's like one of those things where it's like the only reason why it's like an 8 out of 10 is because the video that did the worst was my selling games at a convention video, which not a lot of people were too interested in. But it is what it is. So like that is like the future of the channel. I think ultimately I probably will still do individual price trends for GameCube, 3DS, and Wii U, most likely on a quarterly basis. So if I'll do like the new Retronomics topic and then follow it up with GameCube, 3DS, or Wii U, or just drop GameCube and just do 3DS and Wii U or something like that. I haven't really decided yet, but ultimately like that could eventually change as time goes on too. If like the channel starts to grow, more and more people might be interested in a forecast on a particular system regardless of what the topic is. But right now I'm just spinning my wheels, and it's been very frustrating to see work getting put into these videos and then just seeing it just fall on its face. And it's like I said, I don't necessarily do it for the views, but also it's like I do it because it's fun, and it's starting to not be fun anymore. And I don't really want to quit YouTube because I still enjoy the aspect of using my camera and like using other things to express my creativity, because my job is pretty much like very cut and dry. There's no room like for creativity in there. So this is my creative outlet, and I don't really want to get rid of that. But that's pretty much like what I'm going to do. But moving on, I do have more content on the main channel that I'm going to do, and that's the also thing too. It's cathartic in a way to see Retronomics fall on its face a little bit, because that means that I can like focus on other content that I've been meaning to work on without being so guilty about leaving Retronomics in the back seat. I used to get a handful of video comments where they're like, when's your next Retronomics video coming on, when I put out something that I wanted to do differently and stuff, and it was very frustrating. So hopefully like this means that a couple of other videos will help the channel grow a little bit. But the next main video is going to be that Ouya video. I know I've been like talking about it forever, and I am finally confident enough in my ability to shoot B-roll that I think that I can actually make it go. Like if you guys watch the top 100 NES prices videos from 2015, I used a little bit more B-roll and everything, and I think that it's going to be something that I can apply to this Ouya video. And then also I have a pair of Rokid AR glasses that I want to talk about as well. Stay tuned for that. Okay, next topic here. I'm getting into the main ones here, and I kind of want to talk about a little bit more lifestyle things as well in addition to video games, so I hope you indulge me on this. So I live in Chicago. I live in the Midwest, and as you might be aware, if you do live in the area or the Midwest, the weather sometimes, like the summer fun, isn't so fun. But it either gets too hot or too cold or what have you. And so when it winds down to the end of the summer, Labor Day is coming up. It's the unofficial end of summer. Everybody's coming back to school and everything. I like to enjoy the remaining time where the sun is out longer up until the time frame here, and basically that's one of the reasons why I haven't been posting a lot of content lately. It's one of those things where I've just been enjoying the outdoors, or going to places where, you know, my wife and I, we can experience outside of the city, and overall just have a lot of fun with friends too. So basically this past weekend, the weekend that happened on the 20th, the 19th and the 20th, friends and I, we went to Wisconsin, and we went up to House on the Rock. And I'll get to that in a minute, but like when we went up to House on the Rock, we stopped at New Glarus. If you are a Midwest person, you're aware of the New Glarus Brewing Company and Spotted Cow. And it, like nowadays, the beer is okay, but back when like craft beer was really starting to like take off, New Glarus was like the gateway drug to get into it. And so it's been a lot of fun to actually go to New Glarus because it's still 2.5 hours away from Chicago. So it's definitely not like a trip to just go. And also, there's so many breweries in Chicago anyway. It's become one of those things where like New Glarus has lost its appeal because of now everybody and their mom has their own brewery and everything. So it was pretty fun to just go there. It's like a nice outdoor seating area. It's modeled after an old German brew house. And also Oktoberfest was coming out. So like Oktoberfest is one of my favorite beers, and it's my favorite beer style, not necessarily a specific beer, but I love going around and like tasting. And now that I haven't really drank beer as much, like Oktoberfest is like one of the times where I'm like actually like willing to try different brews. That was a lot of fun. But the main event was we went to House on the Rock Resort, and it's basically in this like little small town in Wisconsin, and it's called Spring Green, Wisconsin. And basically Spring Green, it's just this really tiny town outside of Madison, Wisconsin. It's maybe about 20 minutes away from Madison. And so we stayed at this resort. It's called House on the Rock Resort, naturally. And it's about an hour outside of Madison. But it's called House on the Rock. And so when you go to this place, you have to go and see it for yourself. If you live in Wisconsin or if you live in the area, it's definitely worth a trip. So basically what House on the Rock is exactly what it says that it is. Basically, it's this millionaire or billionaire in the 50s. He decided that he wanted to make like a house for him and his buddies to just chill out and be secluded and stuff. So like this house it overlooks the hills and everything like that, and it's a lot of fun. But as time went on, basically a lot of people would see this from the road. You can't really see it too much nowadays, but because trees have grown over. But a lot of people were like, "Hey, that's a pretty cool looking house. Can we see inside?" And the guy was like a recluse and stuff, and he was just like, "No, go away." But eventually, like he relented and he decided to allow people to come and view his house. But over time, what it's become is like this tourist attraction, and now he's long since passed, but the main draw isn't just his house, because if you've been to like one of the Frank Lloyd Wright houses or something like that, like there's a couple of Frank Lloyd Wright houses around here as well, like the house itself isn't really that big, but it's pretty cool in the sense where there are a lot of different seating areas and everything, and the house is all custom built. It's not just like some cookie cutter house. Like the house was specifically built to be one with the Rock and everything. And like one of my friends, she pointed out, yeah, you notice that there's no bedrooms. This house, for what it is, doesn't have any bedrooms, and which was pretty interesting to see too. But the main draw of it is that the guy, in addition to having this crazy house, also just liked to collect things. Like he just collected anything and everything. If you really want to feel good about collecting video games and you think that you're hoarding video games, just go to this guy's house and you'll see that maybe your collection isn't that bad. It's quite an experience. I didn't really know what to think about it, but basically like this guy, he's very eccentric, and he collected just like a whole bunch of Americana, where it's some things that you just don't see anymore. So if like there's an entire like building dedicated to circuses, and he's got a whole bunch of circus wheels and like wagon wheels that were part of a circus. He's got like this huge Ferris wheel, or not a Ferris wheel, a merry-go-round, where he's collected a whole bunch of pieces from merry-go-rounds that have just shut down. Like he's gone and scooped them all up, and he created this giant merry-go-round. And there's just like a whole bunch of just other stuff. Like the only problem that I have with it is that the collection had gotten so big that there's not really a lot to go off of. Usually, like when you go to a museum or something like that, like there will be like a little placard that'll give you a context for what the significance of the piece is, who made it, and all this other stuff. But for the most part, like it's just a collection of stuff. Like it would be like walking into somebody's house with just a whole bunch of stuff. But it is one of those really cool things where you come through it and like you look into the mind of somebody who, you know, back in the day and stuff, like that's what their passion was. Like there's an entire building with, he just decided I had this like vision of like this giant octopus fighting a big giant whale, and so that's what he did, is he built it. Like he built like this huge towering sculpture of this whale fighting this octopus. There's also these animatronic things that they played the musical instruments and stuff. Like it's a very old way of doing it, obviously. Like nowadays you just record it and like the little machines, like they just dance around, like similar to Chuck E. Cheese. But this is beforehand, where there's like pneumatics and like all these other things that go into the machine to play that instrument as like it should be played. It's not just like a recording with a bunch of robots dancing around. I haven't watched it or read it, but it's also one of those things that's gone over in this book called American Gods. So if House on the Rock sounds familiar and you've only watched American Gods or you've read the book, like that's also where it's from. But ultimately though, it's a really cool place. Like it costs like $30 a person to go, but it took us like 3 hours to walk through and stuff. And it was just one of those things where you just admired like certain things that, like each thing is different. Each building has its own different thing. There's an entire building that's dedicated to just one gigantic organ that was like through the entire thing. So it's a really cool thing that I highly recommend if you're ever up in Wisconsin. But the other thing that I did, and I think something that I want to do in the future here, is, so we stayed on House on the Rock Resort, which is like on a golf course. And whatever, I play golf from time to time, but not like enough to really appreciate every golf course. But just down the street, there's this American Players Theater. And basically it's an outdoor amphitheater that plays certain plays and stuff. And so they did Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. So that was a lot of fun. I was like, oh, Shakespeare, that's the thing that you read in high school. It's like super boring, like whatever and stuff. And they actually did a really good performance of it, to the point where it's, wow, Shakespeare's actually cool. What the heck? Like, I want to go back and find my English teacher and punch him in the face for making it sound so boring. I think because there's a lot of adult humor in Shakespeare, and just the way that now that I'm older and I can understand a little bit more about like how this is portrayed. Like this is a dark comedy, and it's like one of those things where they focus too much on like these star-crossed lovers and everything, but like in reality, like there's a lot of things going on. And so seeing a play by people who actually care about the craft made me realize that it's a lot more fun. And I want to see other Shakespeare plays, to be honest. What was really cool is that the main person who played Romeo, he was deaf. And so he used a lot of American Sign Language. And that also like really made the play a lot more intense, because American Sign Language is a lot of expression and everything. So he was going around like that, and they do acknowledge it in the play. There is a scene that they added specifically for this where Juliet learns some sign language to talk to Romeo. Like they acknowledge in the play that he's deaf. And then there's one part where they're climbing over this fence, and Romeo starts just running, and Mercutio and their other friends, they're like, hey, like, where'd Romeo go? And they're calling for Romeo, and like Mercutio was like, he's deaf. Hello. And so I thought that was a really neat touch, and it is one of those fun little things where I probably go see another play down the line. But yeah, like I figured, like I thought a little bit about like a little bit of lifestyle things, basically what I've been doing outside of YouTube. I hope that you guys found that interesting. All right, moving on to the next topic here. My PVM was restored. So I, in the beginning of the, like in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, I bought a PVM off of eBay and stuff. It is mainly because a lot of people were, when I made the CRT video, a lot of people were like, you got to get a PVM because the PVM is like really where it's at. Like that's the experience that you need to get. And I was like, okay. So I've been like on the hunt for it. I found it for, I paid $147 for it. And I went and I picked up from, like, the person was local, and I went and I like picked it up and everything like that. So that way, like, I didn't risk it getting damaged or anything like that. But the problem is that in April, it started going on the fritz. Like, I would turn it on and the colors were all washed out. And I was kind of worried about it because I would hit it and it would come back to normal and everything like that. But I also just didn't want to, I wanted to get ahead of the problem. So, like, I put a call out on Twitter and I was like, hey, does anybody know of a person who's in Chicago that knows, how to fix these old CRTs? So Keith Rainey, he's the creator of the 240p test. If you are familiar with CRTs and you're obsessed about like the calibration and like all these other cool things about TV repair, you probably have the 240p test on one of your systems in order to make your TV the best that it could possibly be. But so I reached out to him, and he tinkers with PVMs and consumer TVs, and he said, hey, like, I'd love to take a look at it, but I'm pretty busy. This was back in April, and he's been like making like all these other projects and stuff. So he's like, when I wrap up these projects, I'll let you know. Just this past Sunday, I sent a Twitter DM to him, and I was like, hey, I'm following up because it's been since April, about 4 months and stuff. Let me know if you still have the time, or I wasn't sure if he accidentally forgot about me because he's pretty busy. But no, I haven't forgotten about you, but actually I'm free on Sunday if you are too. I can come over and I can just take it back to my place and we can go from there. And I was like, awesome, like, I'm free on Sunday. So he comes over, picks it up, takes it back to his shop. And so I was like, okay, it's going to take a bit, like probably a week or two or something. No big of a deal. So he gets back and he sends me a text like almost like 30 to 40 minutes like after he leaves. And he's, hey, it turns out that the only issue specific that I found was that there are some broken solder joints on the neckboard tube socket. So basically the connector part that connects into the cathode tube, there's a whole bunch of circuit boards and everything. I don't know exactly like what specifically it is, but basically like those joints come loose, and so that way the connection doesn't match up, and so that's the reason why you get the weird the picture. And then also like when you hit the TV, it comes back, right? So it looks like that it's pretty easy fix. Like, he also went through a couple of things that he told me to. What did he say? He said that there were some kind of like other issues that could be addressed. So for example, like the NTSC decoder board is another point of failure where the sockets plug into, and that'll have to get refreshed too. But for the most part, there's nothing catastrophically wrong with it. I could go ahead and just recap it all, but for now, it just doesn't seem like it's worth the hassle. If it starts to like get a little bit borked down the line or something like that, then you can consider that. But for now, it's not that big of a deal. He went ahead and he fixed that, but he also calibrated it. And so he sent me a whole bunch of pictures of some certain tests and stuff, and I'll actually put them up in the YouTube video. I usually just don't put up any images or anything like that in the YouTube video, but I think I'll do it this time just to give some people who are actually watching something to do. But he calibrated it, and it took him about, like, he came over at 11:30, and then he was like, then by 6 o'clock he was like, hey, you know what, it's ready. I can stop by whenever you are, like whenever you're free and stuff, and we'll go from there. And I was like, sure, knock yourself out, let's go. So he came over, and I paid him $100 for his time, and for same day service, I'm pretty pleased with what I have. The TV is like fantastic now. Like, it was pretty good for beforehand, but this is like it's really nice to see like an actually like calibrated thing where like all the levels and stuff like that are the way that they're supposed to be and stuff. I'm pretty good at finding out like different colors and stuff. It's also nice to have a professional do it. It looks really good, and it's one of those things too is hey, I ran all these tests too, and you know what? Like, your PVM is in pretty good shape color wise. So sometimes the tube or something like that, like either the red goes or like the blue or something like that. Like when you look at certain TVs, like sometimes they have like too much magenta, or there's certain different variants as like a TV ages. There's certain colors that tend to fade or come into place. So you know what? For the most part, your PVM is in pretty good shape color wise. There's some patina on it, but like for the most part, he ran these tests, and he sent it to me. It was really funny because here you go, and I was like, great. What does that mean? I don't know. So he like explained it to me, but these particular like calibrations and like these deltas and all these other things, like anything under 2 is not going to be noticeable. So he's basically like only the computer knows, and if you're a person that's like absolutely obsessed with that, it'll drive you nuts. But if you're just a person like me, like, you're really not going to notice the difference unless you have a perfect set right next to it for comparison. But that's great for me. I plugged in my Mister and everything, and it looks great. For the most part, I think there's a little bit of overscan for some arcade games, but that's fine by me. I don't really want to mess with it too much because I don't really want to. I'm okay with a little bit of overscan if it means that like the press 1 to start is just like a little bit cut off. It'll be fine. But yeah, I highly recommend, if you do have a PVM or a TV and stuff and you want to see what it really can do, find a TV person who can calibrate it and pay the money to have it calibrated, because you will be impressed. Final topic here. I decided to give you 2 topics because I want to break it up a little bit too. I think spending like 30 minutes on one specific topic is getting out of hand. I don't really know how much time I have right now because my freaking memory card went out, and so I am a little bit off. But let's talk about Starfield. So Starfield, if you haven't heard of it, it's the new game that's coming from Bethesda. It's going to be similar in style to Fallout and Elder Scrolls, but it's also going to have elements from No Man's Sky, where you can travel to different planets and you can do a whole bunch of different things and all this other stuff. I haven't really looked into it because I want to be surprised. I did that with Tears of the Kingdom. I avoided like almost all of the different exposés and like reviews and stuff like that. I haven't done anything on that. But Starfield, it's going to be Xbox exclusive, and I think like the whole thing that a lot of people are there's a whole bunch of discourse around it, and so like some people are like worried that because Microsoft hasn't done this huge push yet on it, that it's gonna flop, or that it's not. There's a whole bunch of people that are bemoaning it and stuff because it's an Xbox and PC exclusive. Of course, like the fanboy discourse has gotten to it. You have Xbox people being like, "Ha, see, Xbox now has a great exclusive game. What now, Sony guys?" And Sony people are like, "We have No Man's Sky on PSVR 2, whatever, enjoy your stupid broken game." So that's been like the discourse about it. But one of the funniest things that I've saw, like that have come across it, is that Starfield is gonna suck because the start screen is bad. So I don't know if you guys saw this on Twitter or not, but basically there's this guy, his Twitter handle is Grumz, Grumz, and his actual name is Mark Kern. And basically he tweeted out this really bizarre, like, I am very smart type tweet. So it's the physiognomy of start screens. The start screen of a game can reveal a lot about how rushed the team was and how much pride they took in their work. Starfield start screen either shows hasty shipping deadlines by a passionate team overworked or a team that didn't care. Okay. And underneath it, it's a start screen that just has the Starfield logo on it. It's got like a little eclipse style here, and then on the top right it says welcome to Starfield. It means the world to us that you're exploring a brand new universe from all of us at Bethesda Game Studios. Thanks you so much for playing and all your support. We can't wait to see what you discover. And then on the left is just the basic menu: new, load, settings, photo gallery, crew, and then quit. Okay, I don't understand why it's such a big deal that Starfield start screen kind of looks minimalistic. I don't particularly know. If you've been following like the actual game specific things, it is one of those issues where a game startup menu for the most part is okay. So first off, it's weird to have that kind of weird complaint to just assume that just because it looks minimalistic it means that the game is bad. I don't really quite see that, to be honest. Yeah, the start screen is boring and stuff. I guess that's the thing though, is like when you look up like other Starfield like merchandise and everything, it's pretty much like the same type of muted, like minimalistic type thing. I have the controller here, which like is amazing, right? It's got a gold directional button, like the Hall effect. The sticks are red with this gray accent and stuff. It's got this nice rainbow over the Xbox button, and then it's got this transparent triggers and everything like that. So but when you like look at it, it's all white. The buttons are all white and gray and everything, and at first glance, like there's really not a lot to do with it. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, okay. But so I didn't know who this guy was, and like I had to look because like on his profile it says that he's like a CEO and designer. He's a former team lead for OG World of Warcraft, producer of Diablo 2 and StarCraft, and then he says Chrono Trigger is the best game. Can't really argue with them, but he's been 2008. He's got almost 100,000 followers, but I looked into him, and basically he hasn't really worked in video games, at least from what I can tell, since 2013. Like I guess he was ousted by his company Red 5 Studios in 2013. I guess he got accused of really like he was going overboard with his whole thing is that he was accused by an employee for overspending on promotional campaigns in order to promote Firefall, which is like this MMORPG that was canned in 2017. But basically, he devised a marketing scheme that involved the creation of Firefall-themed bus, and this bus would be intended as a mobile promotional tool and a mobile server from which they could host competitions via LAN while the game was still in beta. And the bus was also meant to expand via hydraulics to increase its size. The project was estimated to cost $3 million, and he also established a separate video production team for the game with expensive production equipment. So that right there just shows what type of guy this guy is and why he would be so upset at a minimalistic start screen. So I get it, but also it just makes sense. He thinks that because you're not spending a lot of money that your game just isn't ready or something like that. I guess I just don't get why everybody like this isn't. There's tons of he got roasted in the comments too. Like he just got totally blasted, and so many people were like sharing, quote tweeting and stuff of all these different start screens and stuff. So they had Skyrim, which is just essentially just like that dragon with thing, and same thing with Fallout 4, same kind of thing. It's a start screen, and that's the other thing too. It's like the start screen doesn't really have anything to do with game quality. There's plenty of games that have an amazing like start screen that are just like garbage, and then some of the most best games of all time have start screens that are pretty simplistic. Sure, you had Sonic 3 with that crazy like 3D rendered Sonic and everything, or like Mario World where the game plays in the background and everything, but like modern games for the most part, they don't have a huge to do and stuff. Like I think like one of the coolest start screens was Metroid Prime. That was pretty badass. But for the most part, I'm trying to think off of the top of my head of like good games that I've enjoyed of what their start screen looked at. I remember Horizon Forbidden West. Like that one for the most part is not really that big of a deal either. Like all it is like it's just a screen that kind of like zooms in a little bit and stuff, and when you press start, like it gives you a thing. Yeah, all it is just like a picture of with the logo and stuff. It's just such a weird thing to just get upset about. I don't understand. But basically, the start screen is one place where the player spends the least amount of time. If you're playing a game and stuff, like now that hard drives like load so quickly and stuff, like it's not even an issue and stuff. Like I've been playing Just Cause 3, which is like a game that has been out for ages. Like that game has been out for 8 years now, and that's the same issue. It's got like a little cinematic intro, but like when you start it, it's basically you're Rico starting at a certain place. He's like leaning on a car, and you just hit continue game, and the game just starts. So it's just one of those things where you're like, why would you pump a lot of energy and time into something that not a lot of people would see? Like going back to his whole thing about getting ousted for creating like this huge project and everything, it makes sense of why a person who thinks that you need to have this huge budget and thing that would get upset that, oh, this game must be rushed if you didn't spend a lot of time on the start screen and everything. And it's, but even like looking through his Twitter and stuff like that, he's full of just like weird dumb takes and everything like that. So he's back on the easy mode in games. It's other things about it and stuff like that. It just whatever. I don't know why I'm just like, it's just bizarre to me. I'm just trying to think of like other things, but basically Pete Hines, he's the head of publishing from Bethesda. He stated the start menu has been decided for years since the development and stuff, and pointing back to Elder Scrolls and Fallout, it's pretty much just a simple start screen where you just press start and like you go. So it's one of those things. I'm trying not to, it's weird to get upset about a video game that hasn't even come out yet. That's the other thing about Starfield is I'm excited for Starfield because of the aesthetic of the game. I just like the retro futuristic style of these games. Like when Fallout 4 came out, like it's like an alternate history of, it's like it's set in the future, but it's not. It's still based off of these like 50s ideals of like nuclear warfare and stuff. And Starfield looks to be like an imagination of the future, but from a 60s perspective when like NASA was pretty good, and it captures a lot of the design aesthetic of that era of space travel and stuff. So I'm pretty excited to see like what it's going to look like, and it sounds like a lot of fun. But I also have the special edition with the watch coming, so I'm looking forward to it, and I'm pretty sure it'll be right up my alley. I get to play it on September 1st, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, like it's ultimately, I don't like talking about like modern games in this way because like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if it fails or not. Like I don't really have a vested interest in it. Like that's a bizarre thing about it, is that there's a ton of people who like they're just saying, oh, it's a bad game because it'll fail, and or a lot of people are like, no, we have to buy it as much as possible or else we won't get any more games like this and stuff. It's just a weird thing to argue about, to be honest with you. As long as the game's fun, like that's all that I care about. Like that's the same thing with Nintendo too. When Nintendo fans are something else. Like, they have to buy every single game that comes onto Switch to convince developers that to put more stuff on there. And it's a weird consumerist feeling about that, like to be a fan of a company that just wants your money and stuff. And it I own all of these systems anyway, so I think that's one of the reasons why I don't see what the big deal is and stuff. Like, if there's a game drought on the Xbox Series X, to be honest, my Series X has been collecting dust. Like, I'll switch to PlayStation 5, and if there's not a game that's on PlayStation 5, I'll play on the Switch, or I'll play on PC, or I'll play all the retro video games and stuff. I was playing Number Crunchers on my Apple IIe. Like, I just enjoy playing games. I think I'm just gonna wrap it up now. But let me know what you think about Starfield. Are you going to get it? Did you get it pre-ordered? It's on Game Pass, so it comes out on the 6th, but people can do early play on September 1st, which is what I'm going to do. I'll probably post an unboxing video, and maybe like I'll do an unscripted impressions video of what I think about the game in general. But other than that, yeah, I think this was like a bigger podcast. So if you made it to the end, I really appreciate you coming all the way through. And let me know what you guys think of the podcast and like what other topics that you want me to talk about. I'm going to try to actually try to really make it I'm trying to do it weekly, but that's the other thing is I've been struggling a lot with creating content and stuff. It's been one of those things where I don't really want to force an episode, just you don't want to force a fart. It's just like one of those things where it's like, we'll see what happens. But again, I'll see you guys next time. Make sure that you like the video, that you subscribe if you're new, and share it with anybody who might find it interesting. And you can find me on any social media at snicktendo. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.